Be Our Guest is one of Magic Kingdom's most popular restaurants.
But is it actually worth it?
Today, I'm dining in the Beast Castle, where a uniquely themed meal here costs a whopping $72.
There's a new menu, and I'm giving you my honest take.
It's no secret that over the years, the quality of food at Be Our Guest has gone way downhill. But if you're a Beauty and the Beast fan, this still may be a restaurant you want to check out.
And since they just introduced a new menu here last week, I figured I'd give it another shot, although, truth be told, I am not the biggest fan of this restaurant.
For adults ages 10 and up to dine here, the 3-course meal costs $72. And for children ages 3 to 9, the 3-course meal costs $43. Now, there are 3 different rooms you could be seated in here at Be Our Guest. First, you have the West Wing, which is, of course, the most coveted room where you'll have the Enchanted Rose. It could be quite dark in here, and this is the smallest room, the fewest amount of tables, and I actually don't think I have ever been lucky enough to score a table in the West Wing. Next, we have the Rose Gallery, which has a giant figure of Belle and the Beast dancing in the center. This is another one of the smaller rooms that I think I've only gotten the chance to sit in once. And finally, we have the Grand Ballroom, which is the big main dining room where I am actually seated in today. And this is pretty much where I'm seated every time I dine here at Be Our Guest. But honestly, I am a-okay with that because this room is absolutely beautiful. The ceilings are high, the chandeliers are insane, the artwork, it is just really, really cool in here and seriously transports you to the movie itself. And usually I'd be really, really surprised to walk in here and see the dining room this empty. Do you guys remember how hard it used to be to get a dining reservation here at Be Our Guest? But man, it is empty in here tonight. It has become so easy to find a dining reservation here at Be Our Guest over the years, it's honestly hard to believe. When I looked this afternoon to make a reservation, I could have scored one at literally any time that I wanted. Every single time slot, for the most part, was available. Whether I was looking for 1 person, for 2 people, for 4 people, every time slot was available. And that is totally evident by how many people are in here right now. I'm in the Grand Ballroom. I could count the amount of tables that are seated in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, including me. And there have got to be at least 50 tables in here. That's insane. And I feel like that itself is just a sign that this restaurant has gone downhill, and maybe Disney will see this and kind of decide to pick things up and maybe add the quick service lunch back. Who knows? I know that's a big topic, which maybe we'll discuss a little bit later.
Because for now, I want to take a look over the menu. Now remember, in the Magic Kingdom, if you're at a sit-down restaurant, you are able to order alcohol, so they do have some specialty cocktails here. They have a French 75, this roses and rhubarb drink with bourbon, and this other drink here, the Handsome Brute with vodka, pomegranate juice, Chambord, and lemon juice. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a lemon drop martini. My server said it was like sweet too, so sounds kind of good. And of course we've got some wine and beer, as well as some 0 proof and some non-alcoholic cocktails in some fancy cups. They always try and get you with the fancy cups at these princess style restaurants. But moving on over to the food, you can see this is the menu for guests ages 10 and over, $72. We've got our 3-course prefix menu with our appetizers. You get to choose one from the following. You could choose from a blue crab bisque, a mixed green salad, an endive and walnut salad, a tuna tartare, some escargot, or the French onion soup. The French onion soup being the most popular. I know they used to have a potato soup on the menu, but I believe that has been replaced with the new menu with a blue crab bisque. There's a couple other new ones. I just can't remember which ones are new with this new menu. And then moving down to the entrees, Of course, we get to choose one from here as well. They have some steak frites. They have a short rib beef bourguignon. They have a pork chop, some chicken, charred eggplant is going to be the plant-based offering. They have a grilled filet mignon, or you can choose a pan-roasted Arctic char as your entree. You could add on some enhancements. They have a Roquefort fondue, some sautéed shrimp, or some double smoked bacon. And then you get to choose one dessert as well, from a creme brulee tart, the blooming rose, which is going to be the gray stuff dessert, or you could choose a plant-based gray stuff.
So I know I said I haven't dined here in quite a while, so the only real big change I am noticing with this menu is in the dessert section. Last time I dined here, you actually used to get a trio of desserts. There were 3 miniature desserts, so you used to get a miniature gray stuff and then 2 other miniature desserts. I don't quite remember what they are, but now you have to choose just one dessert. And this is not one of those restaurants where you're able to order multiple appetizers or multiple entrees or multiple desserts. It says choose one, and you are only able to choose one from each of those categories. So it's an expensive meal for what you're getting, for sure. Before we get into our appetizer, I was handed a giant loaf of bread. This is huge. Like, literally, do you guys see this? I'm just one person. I guess they don't do half baguettes here, because I got a full French baguette. This is insane for one person. Hopefully they let me like take this home or something, because I don't want to waste this entire loaf of bread. But it's served with this delicious looking seasoned butter that has some olive oil on the bottom. I really appreciate a seasoned butter, and it looks like it's going to pair nicely with this bread, but it's going to lose some points because this baguette is not warm.
Well, let's tear off a piece of our giant loaf here. It is nice and crispy. Ooh, it seems like it might be like sourdough. It has that nice, like chewy kind of feel to it. And you got to get some of this butter here. It looks nice and soft, so I love a soft seasoned butter. Oh yeah, it's soft.
I know this here is a complimentary bread, so I can't judge it too harshly, but I think this bread used to be a lot better, if I'm remembering it correctly. It just doesn't have much flavor. Like, Publix bread is a lot better than this, and the bread over in France is leaps and bounds better than this. The butter looked like it was going to be seasoned really well, but somehow it had no flavor. And I just feel like this bread also has no flavor. Like, it has a decent crisp on the outside and it's nice and chewy, but it just like somehow tastes like nothing. And I love bread. And France has really good bread, but this is kind of underwhelming. I don't know, am I crazy here? It just looks a lot better than it tastes, I guess. Well, guys, unfortunately, one of my biggest pet peeves about dining at an expensive restaurant is feeling rushed. And within 3 to 4 minutes of placing my order, my appetizer arrived at the table, and that just makes me feel very, very rushed out of the restaurant. So you hate to see it, but my French onion soup has arrived. For my appetizer, I selected the French onion soup au gratin. This has a rich beef broth, sherry wine, and Swiss cheese. Regardless of when this came out, this looks pretty fantastic. I must admit, this cheese crust on here just looks divine. It looks toasted to absolute perfection. And let's see what we're working with on this cheese pole action. I hope it's nice and cheesy. Oh yeah, you can see the broth already seeping out of there. Oh my gosh. This is a thick layer. I can't even get through the cheese. Oh wow. That is beautiful. That is beauty. Now, French onion soup is one of my favorite soups, and Be Our Guest did not come messing around. This looks so good. There's some amazing French onion soup here on Disney property, but I gotta say, just by the looks so far, This looks like it could compete. It looks like it could compete, I must admit. Gotta get some cheese, gotta get some broth. And I must admit, it didn't come to play in flavor either. This is a really, really good French onion soup. You know, I remember the last time I came here enjoying the French onion soup, so I'm glad to see it hasn't changed and the soup is still really, really good. Flavor-wise, it's definitely more heavy on the beef broth. I don't think it has much of a sherry flavor like some other French onion soups have. Absolutely love the amount of cheese in here. The amount of cheese is just fantastic. I could use maybe just a little bit more onion, but I also think there's a good solid amount of bread in here, so just a little bit more onion. Another thing I wish is that there was a little bit more cheese fried over the edge. I love when there's just cheese pouring over and it kind of crispifies over the edge, you know? I like when it's just seeping over the edges of the bowl. And here we've got a little bit of crispy cheese, but I like a lot. But that's just my personal preference. So yeah, this is definitely up there with some of the better French onion soups here at Disney World. Pretty much whenever there's French onion soup on the menu, I'm gonna order it. And my favorites at Disney are probably, number one is Chefs de France. I know it's like cliche that you would get French onion soup in the France Pavilion in Epcot, but I truly think that French onion soup is some of the best I have ever had. And what you get with that French onion soup is not only delicious, but it is a huge portion. I also love the French onion soup from over at Steakhouse 71. That one has more of a sherry flavor, a like richer sherry flavor. This one isn't as rich. So while I really enjoy this, I don't think this appetizer is worth like a $70+ meal. Like, it's really good, don't get me wrong, but I think you should be getting a bigger bowl if they're gonna include this in a meal of this price. You know, like, this is expensive. And French onion soup is not necessarily an expensive appetizer. So if you're gonna serve it with this expensive of a meal, I just wish it was a bigger portion because this bowl is not very large. I think the Beast is about to make his appearance. Ah, the man of the hour. There he is. Take a good peek. Oh, we gotta wave, we gotta wave. He could pretty much greet every single table in here because there aren't many. Well, that was a nice little surprise. I totally forgot that the Beast comes out during your meal here. I don't know how I forgot that. But yeah, he comes out and kind of walks around. A lot of people come in here thinking that this is a character dining experience, that you're going to meet the different characters from Beauty and the Beast, but that is not the case. It's just the Beast, and he does not stop at every table. It is a very brief experience. He just does a lap or two around each room, lasts about 2 minutes, and then he heads back and comes out about 45 minutes later. So you'll see him once or twice during your meal or so. So you won't really get photos or anything with him, but it's still cool because there aren't really many places where you'll actually get to see the Beast on Disney property other than in Hollywood Studios during Fantasmic and the Beauty and the Beast show. So it's still cool that he kind of comes out, but don't think you're gonna get like photos or anything with him. It's just like a hi and bye. Now, usually for my entree, I probably would have gone with the filet mignon, but I did have 2 different servers come to my table and tell me that their favorite dish on this menu was actually the short rib beef bourguignon. So that is what I decided to go with tonight. This is served with garlic confit mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, and a smoked bacon marmalade. Guys, I must admit, this smells absolutely incredible. As soon as it was placed on my table, I could smell that rich kind of red wine flavor coming through.
And I can already tell this is probably going to be very, very good. But the make or break is going to be seeing just how tender this short rib is. So I'm really hoping it just falls apart, and it looks like we are having pretty good luck with that so far. Yeah, it's pretty much just falling apart right with the fork there. That is just what you want from a short rib, so this should be good.
I don't think those cast members steered me wrong with this one. Yeah, I definitely really enjoy this. They let me know that they slow roast this for hours, and you can tell not only just from the looks when I was breaking it apart with my fork, but from the taste as well. It is super tender, and the flavors from the onions and that braising liquid and the red wine, whatever they're braising this in, has really seeped into the flavor of the meat as well, and really got in and penetrated the meat and flavored it to perfection. So it's not just the flavor from like the gravy, the meat has really soaked in all of that flavor as well, and it's a little bit sweet from like those onions, and it's really, really good. I'd also say it's a decent hunk of meat as well. This is a pretty big short rib that we've got on the plate here, which again, I'd hope for the price of this meal. Usually when I come here, I would just go with the filet, and in these types of situations, I usually tend to just order what I think and what I would presume to be the more expensive thing on the menu, which is why I almost just went with the filet again. That's what I've ordered, I think, every single time I have dined at this restaurant, but I was convinced to get this short rib this time around, and I'm glad I listened. I gotta say, it's definitely very tasty, and maybe even one of the better short ribs that I've had, so be our guest. Maybe you're not too bad. This is not one of the new menu items. This has been around. I think they maybe changed up the sides or something, but this has been on the menu. It is not new, but it's good. I would definitely get it again. It's served with these mashed potatoes here, and we've kind of got some of the meat and gravy from the beef that's on the mashed potatoes. Those are not the best mashed potatoes, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the mashed potatoes I had the other day at Pop Century Resort in the food court are better than these mashed potatoes, and the mashed potatoes I had at the Crystal Palace are better than these mashed potatoes. They're like really gritty, and they're not that like creamy mashed potato that I look for, and they're supposed to be like garlic mashed potatoes. It tastes no garlic whatsoever in here. We've got some roasted carrots along with some other vegetables here. Super soft, and those are of course going to be delicious because they've been braised along with that beef, and they're soaked in that gravy as well, so I think anything soaked in that gravy and that braising liquid is going to be delicious. And from my memory, when I've gotten the filet in the past, it's been pretty average, like just okay. I'd say this is definitely a lot better than the filet. Again, that's from my memory. And you can get a steak, really at every single restaurant on property. So I'd say if you're coming here to be our guest, this short rib is the way to go. I'm glad I listened to the cast members because, like I said, they did not steer me wrong with this. This is a really good short rib. Now, I did decide to enhance my entree, and I added on these sautéed shrimp with citrus butter for $10 additional. I asked my server what her favorite enhancement was on the menu, and this is what she said was her favorite, although I wasn't really expecting this presentation here. It's kind of lacking. It was only a $10 enhancement, so I wasn't expecting that many shrimp. There are 5 in here. They are not massive, but they're kind of tiny. Let's try them out. It tastes like they're going for a shrimp scampi, and that's what they really wanted from this, but it is just not giving shrimp scampi at all. It's just shrimp, like, tossed in a ton of butter that has no flavor at all. I need a ton more garlic, a ton more citrus in here. I actually taste zero citrus whatsoever. Like, the amount of garlic, or the amount of butter in the bottom of this dish is alarming. There is just so much butter, which would be fine if it like tasted seasoned or good, but it's just like a load of unseasoned butter in here. Not any flavor, no salt, no pepper. Unfortunately, these are a miss for me. It's not that expensive, you know, to make a surf and turf, just $10 extra, but I need some flavor from this, and it's giving no flavor. So I'm gonna stick with my short rib here, and hopefully we get back on track in the dessert round. And for dessert, I decided to go with the new and hopefully improved gray stuff, or the blooming rose. This has chocolate cake topped with the gray stuff.
And how perfect does this dessert match my LBV t-shirt, which, by the way, link in the description of this video as always. And yeah, this is definitely an interesting version of this dessert. As I mentioned, they used to serve a dessert trio with the gray stuff. I think the last time I had it, it was in a little chip teacup, and they had the gray stuff on top.
And while this does look like dome cake-esque, I appreciate the little details that we've got on this rose here. They've got little water droplet details, which I think are really cool. We've got some little gold flakes, which I love too. And if you're wondering what the gray stuff is, it's pretty much just a cookies and cream mousse. And I love cookies and cream, so the gray stuff is pretty delicious to me. I'd assume they haven't really messed with the recipe of the gray stuff and what's inside of this much, but let's see here. We'll break in. There we go. Yeah, it pretty much looks the same, and it looks like we've got some chocolate cake underneath the rose as well. I was really tempted by that new creme brulee, guys, but I feel like if you're coming to be our guest, you have to get the gray stuff. It's delicious. Or maybe not. Here comes the beast.
Hello, friends. We proudly invite you to be our guest. Now we are excited to introduce the Beast.
Just as I'm about to say, the gray stuff has changed for the worst. And I say that because the rose, the red part of the rose, has a waxy flavor that I do not enjoy, and it kind of tainted the entire flavor of the gray stuff. And let me try some of the gray stuff on its own here. It's okay, but it just doesn't have that rich cookies and cream flavor that I remember it used to have. You see, this is like the coating that was on the rose, and it is just not good. It tastes like wax. I guess I'm assuming it's like white chocolate, but it doesn't taste edible. It doesn't taste chocolatey. I don't know. I remember this being a lot better. I don't know what's happened to this. Like I said, I don't know if they've changed the recipe or what. Now, you don't have to come to be our guest to get the gray stuff. They added a gray stuff cupcake over at Gaston's Tavern that I really enjoy, or really enjoyed. I haven't had it in probably like a year at this point, so again, I don't know if it has changed, but the last time I had it, I did really like it. So I don't know if that's changed as well, but, or maybe this was just like sitting too long, because I assume they make these like way ahead of time, but I don't know what's going on with this. This is not good today, and now I wish I got the creme brulee instead. Okay, so we have escaped the Beast Castle, and I want to kind of go over my meal at Be Our Guest with you guys, because I must admit, I was a little bit surprised. I really did not expect to enjoy my meal, because my last meal that I had at Be Our Guest, I really did not care for. But tonight, I had some things that I really enjoyed. So I was quite pleasantly surprised. Now, all that to say, would I I'd still rather go to a place like Liberty Tree Tavern any day of the week. For sure, Be Our Guest is still not going to be a restaurant that I go to anytime often. It's still not going to be a favorite restaurant for me in Magic Kingdom, but I did enjoy some of the food that I had there tonight. I thought the French onion soup was really quite good. Like I said, it's not really like worth it as an appetizer, but it was a really solid French onion soup, and that short rib was quite delicious. I thought the gravy that it was in was really good. It was really tender. It was really flavorful. It was seasoned perfectly. That was a dish that I would definitely recommend and would definitely get again probably every single time that I go to Be Our Guest if it's on the menu. I was unfortunately quite disappointed in the gray stuff. I don't know if it was just an off day, an off night. I don't know what was going on with that, but I was quite disappointed in the dessert. It really wasn't that great tonight. And I do think overall there are a handful of things that Be Our Guest can improve upon to mainly add value to your meal. I definitely think they could throw a couple of appetizers on that appetizer list that are maybe a little bit more like expensive, a little bit more pricey, just to add some value, because it is such an expensive meal. And same goes for desserts. You know, there were really only two options. I mean, there was a plant-based gray stuff, a regular gray stuff, and then a creme brulee. I wish the options were maybe like, you know, a little bit more luxurious, if you will. And if they're not gonna make them a little bit fancier, something they could easily do that really wouldn't cost them much but would still add a ton of value to the meal, I believe, is just giving each table like a cheese board. I think that's something that would keep the guests happy, would add a ton of value, and again, it just wouldn't cost them a ton of money, but I don't know, at least it'd keep me happy personally. And speaking of value, I just find that meal really, really hard to justify as an adult unless you're getting the filet mignon or the short rib. Like the chicken, the pork chop, the plant-based dish, that meal is expensive. I can't imagine getting chicken or an eggplant plant-based dish or a pork chop or steak and fries for $72. Like, if I'm getting that, I gotta get the filet or the short rib, and quite honestly, if I'm not getting the filet or the short rib, I just simply would not go because it's not worth it. And as you guys saw, that restaurant was so empty. At least when I first got it definitely started to fill in as we got closer to dinner time, but still, there were so many reservations available. When I checked at like noon, 1 o'clock today, I could have booked a reservation at literally any time that I wanted. So clearly, they're having some issues filling tables at Be Our Guest, and I think they're going to continue to have some issues with the prices as high as they are if they're not going to bring back the quick service lunch and the quick service breakfast that they used to have. If you guys weren't aware, pre-COVID, they used to have a quick service breakfast and a quick service lunch offering at Be Our Guest. And the food was amazing from what I could remember. They had some great breakfast dishes, and the lunch you could get the French onion soup during lunch and some great sandwiches. I remember getting the turkey sandwich all the time, but overall it was just a great way to get into a great themed restaurant without a reservation, get a great meal at a good price without spending a ton of money on the prefix meal. But I know a lot of you guys are with me, and you're probably missing Be Our Guest's breakfast and lunch as well. I don't think Disney will ever bring it back. I think they will not swallow their pride and bring it back, although the restaurant's gonna stay empty. I think they think that they're gonna make more money if they keep bringing guests in for the prefix, although I think that restaurant would be packed to the gills if they brought back the quick service lunch and breakfast at Be Our Guest. There would be people waiting in a line to get into that place, and I think they'd just be turning people over so much faster that they might be able to make up that money. I don't know. One day, I'll keep hoping that they bring back that breakfast and lunch. I think it helped them fill those tables in.
wishful thinking.
Well, I feel like Be Our Guest is a very controversial restaurant, so you've probably all already let me know your very strong opinions on this restaurant in the comments below, but just in case you haven't, let me know your thoughts on Be Our Guest in the comments. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Thank you to everyone over on Patreon. I appreciate all of your support. If you don't already and you enjoy honest Disney food reviews, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.